think Comey should consider himself lucky, Maria. Number one, that he wasn't treated like Roger Stone was treated, who had a very similar charge where they actually raided his home at 6 a.m., drug him out. And that was before they had actually called the CNN camera so that they could go and get it all on camera. So that didn't happen to him. Secondly, what also didn't happen to him is what happened to General Flynn, where Comey himself admitted that they ambushed Flynn in the White House, charged him on very similar charges, even though the FBI agents themselves said that they didn't believe that Flynn had lied. And oh, by the way, that information had leaked out on General Flynn that they then misled the American public about what actually General Flynn said. So, look, Comey has long been a liar, a leaker. He's dishonest. He ruined the FBI. And I would just lastly say this about this indictment is he's also going to be very lucky if there's not a superseding indictment. But I'd say most importantly, he will be lucky if there is not a grand conspiracy charge brought, which is really what should be brought against probably about 24 characters in the United States over the last 7-8 years.
That was Devin Nunes on Maria Bartimaro's show talking about this Comey indictment. Our guest today, John Connor, he's been practicing law in San Francisco since 1972. He has tried cases in state and federal courtrooms across the country and spent 5 years as an assistant U.S. attorney in Northern California. He's represented the United States in both criminal and civil cases. Few people understand the balance between law, politics, and public trust as deeply as he does. And with the indictment of former FBI Director James Comey, I think Americans woke up that day and they were asking if this moment represents long-delayed justice, or is this the opening of another chapter of political retribution? John O'Connor is here to help us cut through the noise. John, welcome back to Detroit's Morning Answer.
Hey, good to be with you, John.
I'm so happy to have you. But John, when you first heard James Comey had been indicted, we thought it was going to happen, and I think they had like a week left to bring the indictment. What did that moment signal to you as someone who has lived inside federal law enforcement in the courtroom for decades?
Well, I've been following Comey quite closely ever since this whole thing with Russiagate, and I've probably written 20 articles on him that audience can find on my website, postgatebook.com, postgatebook.com. So I'm not a fan of Comey, and I did one pretty funny thing where I just made fun of him on his exoneration of Hillary Clinton. It's pretty good. But here's my problem with this, John. I'll be real candid here with you. I'm happy he got indicted, but then as I look at the indictment, I'm afraid it is so weak. I think it's going to be so weak. If I've got the right questions and answers. Now, I'm not sure which, because the indictment is very sparse. They don't quote the exact questions and answers.
Yeah.
And it's fine for an indictment, but it's just in terms of somebody evaluating, it's difficult.
So,
John, if it is the exchange with Ted Cruz that people have been publicizing, that's not gonna get it. But and that's what I worry about. I worry that we're going to make Comey into a hero.
Yeah. So walk us through what this indictment. Walk us through the core of the indictment. What specifically is Comey being accused of, and why does it rise to the level of federal charges rather than some internal reprimand or ethics violation?
Well, first of all, it's a federal case because he's testifying before Congress. I think it's a Senate testimony in September 30th, 2020. And I believe, but I'm not sure, it's when Ted Cruz is questioning him about whether you've ever leaked. And did you authorize so-and-so to leak? Now, and the indictment just talks about, well, he lied about telling person 2 to leak about person 3, who I'm assuming is Donald Trump. Yeah. So here's the problem with the indictment, with the questions that I saw of Cruz. He said there's a good Supreme Court case that is the same, almost identical to the way Comey answered the question. Comey knows what he's doing. Yeah. He's a good criminal. He's a good criminal. And there's one Supreme Court case where somebody's indicted, and the answer was something like he had given a false statement before, and he said something like, "Well, I'm going to stick with that," or "Yes, I'm going to go with that story," something like that. Almost what Comey said. That is a true statement. Let's say I lie on March 1st, and then later on, a year later, I say, somebody says, "Well, you said on March 1st that you didn't leak." And if I say, "Well, I'm sticking to my testimony," well, I'm sticking to my testimony. It's a true statement. Yeah. And what Cruz did not do is what a trial lawyer would do, is say, "Wait a second." And he also asked a compound question about whether you authorized McCabe to leak, and I forget what the "and" was.
Question. John, I actually have the audio in that exchange. Here it is.
On May 3rd, 2017, in this committee, Chairman Grassley asked you point blank, quote, "Have you ever been an anonymous source in news reports about matters relating to the Trump investigation or the Clinton investigation?" You responded under oath, quote, "Never." He then asked you, quote, "Have you ever authorized someone else at the FBI to be an anonymous source in news reports about the Trump investigation or the Clinton administration?" You responded again under oath, "No." Now, as you know, Mr. McCabe, who works for you, has publicly and repeatedly stated that he leaked information to the Wall Street Journal and that you were directly aware of it and that you directly authorized it. Now, what Mr. McCabe is saying and what you testified to this committee cannot both be true. One or the other is false. Who's telling the truth?
I can only speak to my testimony. I stand by what the testimony you summarized that I gave in May of 2017.
So your testimony is you've never authorized anyone to leak. And Mr. McCabe, if he says contrary, is not telling the truth. Is that correct?
Again, I'm not going to characterize Andy's testimony, but mine is the same today.
Now, John O'Connor, you heard that exchange. Now, McCabe is on the record saying that he was authorized. Comey told him to authorize the leaks. I mean, they're going to go up against each other, and they both are a bunch of you-know-whats. But you heard the exchange. Where did Ted miss it?
Well, remember, all Comey ever said was, I'm standing on my past testimony. Yeah. That's the problem. That, under the Supreme Court statement, is a true statement. You can't get him for that. Secondly, I think McCabe, his testimony is best stated as he said he leaked, and then he told Comey about it, and Comey said it was okay. So he didn't pre-authorize it. He kind of post-confirmed it. But then again, both of Cruz's questions are compound.
Yeah.
If I say to you, "Did you go to the grocery store at 10 o'clock and did you shoot Joe Smith?" And I've got a video of you shooting Joe Smith, and you say, "No, I didn't." Well, it's because you went to the grocery store at 11 o'clock and you did shoot Joe Smith. Okay? Yeah. So that's one problem that lawyers run into all the time, called the compound question. But here's the second problem, is his answer wasn't, "No, I didn't do that." His answer was, "I'm sticking to my previous testimony."
Good criminal, right?
And he's a good criminal. He knows exactly what he's doing. So that thing is dead on arrival, and we're going to make Comey into a hero. Okay. Because if Cruz would have just said, "Did you ever authorize anyone to leak?" No.
Now,
did you even authorize him after the fact? Oh. In other words, did you okay it after the fact, which is what McCabe said he did. Did you authorize this leak after the fact? No. If he did that, maybe you've got a chance of a conviction. I don't think you got one here.
Now,
and
Now here's the exchange that Ted Cruz had brought up between Comey and Grassley. Maybe it's this and not Cruz.
Director Comey, have you ever been an anonymous source in news reports about matters relating to the Trump investigation or the Clinton investigation?
Never.
Question 2 on relatively related. Have you ever authorized someone else at the FBI to be an anonymous source in news reports about the Trump investigation or the Clinton investigation?
No.
Has any classified information relating to President Trump or his associates been declassified and shared with the media?
Not to my knowledge.
You testified before the House Intelligence Committee that a lot of classified matters have ended up in the media recently. Without getting into any particular article, I want to emphasize that, without getting into any particular article, is there an investigation of any leaks of classified information relating to Mr. Trump or his associates?
I don't want to answer that question, Senator, for reasons I think you know. There have been a variety of leaks. Well, leaks are always a problem, but especially in the last 3 to 6 months. And where there is a leak of classified information, the FBI, if it's our information, makes a referral to the Department of Justice, or if it's another agency's information, they do the same, and then DOJ authorizes the opening of an investigation. I don't want to confirm in an open setting whether there are any investigations open.
I want to challenge you on that, because the government regularly acknowledges when it's investigating classified leaks. You did that in the Valerie Plame case. What's the difference here?
Well, the most important difference is I don't have authorization from the department to confirm any of the investigations they've authorized. And it may be that we can get that at some point, but I'm not going to do it sitting here in an open setting without having talked to them.
John O'Connor, I think I understand what you mean now. He really is good. Go. What say you about that exchange?
Well, it's very good. And by the way, his main leaking came from a guy named Daniel Richman, the Columbia University professor to whom he gave his 5 memos that he had put together to try to trap Trump. I mean, he's a sneaky snake. He's trying to trap Trump into some sort of obstruction, so he's making a book on him. He then gives them to Daniel Richman, his buddy at Columbia University. When he gets fired, Richman spends days at the home of Nicole Wallace's husband, a guy named John Schmidt, for which Schmidt won a Pulitzer along with the Washington Post for reporting on Russiagate. So the guy was a massive leaker. Nobody focused on Daniel Richman, and I think that was in the public sphere. Maybe it wasn't that people knew about Daniel Richman at the time, but nobody asked about that.
Yeah.
And Grassley only looked at the FBI. Did you authorize anybody at the FBI to leak? Now, I think he knew that McCabe was leaking. He probably authorized it. Also, McCabe is not going to come out and be a real solid troop here. Apparently, he's already said something that's contrary to what he had said before. But when you talk about authorizing a leak, he wasn't asked if he ratified the leak that had already occurred. Did you authorize it? Most of us look at that as being something you do before the leak. You know, did you authorize me to go to the store? No, I didn't. Well, you knew about it when I got back, and you said it was okay. Yes, I did. That's ratifying me going to the store. So let me put it this way. Here's my problem, John.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll go with Devin Nunes. Devin Nunes is absolutely right. The real play here is a grand indictment of all the leaking and lying on Russiagate in a conspiracy that extends to 2023, when fortunately Brennan lied about what he did before Congress. And so if you put all of that together, including the Daniel Richman stuff, and also Comey's lies, it's not just leaking, it's lying. Also, withholding withholding key information from his boss, Donald Trump, and in other cases, I think he's probably less than candid with Congress about what he was doing. There is an indictment there that's probably would be pretty good, but somebody's got to be pretty good to put it together, take their time, work through the grand jury process. And so when Nunes says that about the grand indictment, I'm hoping that's going to happen.
Well,
but right now, what I would do is I would get rid of this indictment so fast my head would spin, and I'd come up with a reason to do it. And he may be done a favor. The judge, a Biden-appointed judge, may do that same thing I'm suggesting with the statement, I'm standing by my past testimony. If he says, look, that cannot be the basis for perjury or false statement, this case is gone, it's probably a beneficial thing for Trump. Otherwise, Trump's he's going to do for Comey what other people did for Trump. He's going to make Comey into a hero.
Well, President Trump actually, he was questioned about, will there be others, and is this about justice and revenge? I want you to hear what he had to say and get your take.
No, there'll be others. Look, that's my opinion. They weaponized the Justice Department like nobody in history. What they've done is terrible. And so I hope there are others, because you can't let this happen to a country.
Will you appoint a permanent U.S. attorney to try this case? Lindsey Halligan has never tried a case.
Well, we'll see, but it's a pretty easy case. It's about justice, really. It's not revenge. It's about justice.
Now, you heard them. There will be others. It's about justice, not revenge. What say you, John O'Connor?
Well, I do think that an indictment of John Brennan should be coming, and we know that he was. I think he denied in May of 2023 ever urging that the Steele dossier be put into the ICA, or the intelligence community assessment that Obama had ordered. Obama had ordered a false one to make it look like Russia had really hacked the election and was a substantial interferer in the election, and that was all nonsense, and Obama knew it. But then Brennan lies about what he did by urging. Then they've got an email from him, December 2nd, I think, 2016, in which he urges the group to put the Steele dossier in the ICA. So I think I would like to see that as part of a broader conspiracy that ropes in Comey and Clapper and people who have lied about this thing. But there will be others. There will be others, I believe.
And John O'Connor, Obama should probably thank President Trump and that Supreme Court decision as it relates to the acts of presidential Article 2 powers, rather, right? He should probably be thanking President Trump. Do you think this will ever touch Obama, though?
No, I don't think so. We know what Obama did wrong. He knew all about it. He knew this Russiagate thing was going along, but he sat back and got a box of popcorn and was just watching it. I mean, to be fair to him. Now, the other thing, another problem that you point out is that Obama has presidential immunity, number one. And number two, any conversation with Obama is privileged as being a conversation with the president. So one of the things about this is Comey sat in an office with Obama and heard Brennan's report about this whole Russian collusion thing was just a fiction made up by Hillary to prevent people from realizing what she had done to Bernie Sanders, and it worked.
Yeah,
and he knew that. But nobody can ask about that meeting because it's wrapped in privilege because you're talking to a president. Now later on, he gets the same story from Brennan. He in a written referral where Brennan says the same thing. Now, in that case, when he's asked about it in Congress, Comey says, "Oh, that doesn't ring a bell. Doesn't ring a bell." Well, wait a second. You've just got a report that this whole Russiagate investigation that you're heading, you, James Comey, are heading, and it doesn't ring a bell that the CIA has told you it's all a big farce made up by Hillary, and you don't know that. Come on. But he said, "Well, it doesn't. Gee, doesn't ring a bell."
Yeah.
So if they end up with the actual paperwork proof that he got a report of it on his desk, he goes, "Oh, now that I see that, yeah, I guess I did do it." And he's a good criminal.
Yeah.
When he was asked about that, John, just let me tell you how good he is. When he was asked about that, when he said it doesn't ring a bell, the questioner was not able to give him the CIA report because it was classified, and Comey had refused to renew his classification status. So he could not be shown any of the documents that would make him remember and unring that bell, ring the bell. He's a good criminal, and he knew exactly what he was doing.
John O'Connor, we got about a minute and 40 seconds left, but I want to get this question out. Now, you've lived through Watergate, Iran-Contra, and the Clinton scandals. How do we make sure something like this never happens again?
I don't think we can. Very frankly, all we can do is appoint good people. And the real thing we can do that would help is if we really had an engaged media. None of this would have happened if Comey didn't realize that the media, the mainstream media people, were gullible and dumb as posts.
Yeah.
That's what he's banking on, and it worked. Think about it. He created this phony story that a 12-year-old with a computer could have looked at this and said, this is phony.
Yeah.
And all you need to do is all the main players in the Russiagate were actually Russian agents. So in other words, they're all buddies of Putin. They're all oligarchs who are hiring people like Simpson and Christopher Steele. Yeah. Now, I say this. If you are actually in spreading a conspiracy of Putin, in other words, you would be outing Putin. You would be ratting out Putin. You should expect, if you're really ratting out Putin, you should find your face in your breakfast cereal the next morning.
Yeah.
Okay, that's how tough it is. And so anybody could puncture that conspiracy and say, this is phony. And you also know about Hillary Clinton, how much she is gaining from this, from the leaked documents. So anybody could figure that out. Yet we have a media, thousands of people in the mainstream media, they couldn't figure it out. Rather, they hyped it.
Yeah.
And
John O'Connor,
I'm stunned at this.
I'm sorry. We got to leave it there. We're running out of time. And no one expected Trump to win. That's the key. They thought they could clean it up with a Clinton presidency. John O'Connor, former Assistant U.S. Attorney in Northern California, thanks so much for joining us today.
Great, John. Good talking to you.
As always. You're listening to Detroit's Morning Answer. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.